Welcome to the devotional series, A Psalm a Day Keeps Satan Away, the podcast edition, episode 66, subtitled Testing. And I'm Pastor D-Wop. Well, we're back in the saddle here after an almost 2-month break, ready to go, feeling refreshed to tackle the Psalms once again, and also add to our Pondering the Parables series, where we have been studying the Kingdom of Heaven is like parables. But today we return to the Psalm 66. I'm going to be reading again from the NIV today, portions of Psalm 66, very strategically picked because I think this psalm represents a certain type of Jewish theological structure. And I wanted to point that out to you as we reflect upon this particular passage and we get to the main theological theme of the text. So here we go, Psalm 66 from the NIV. For the director of music, a song, a psalm. Shout with joy to God, all the earth. Sing the glory of his name. Make his praises glorious. Say to God, how awesome are your deeds. So great is your power that your enemies cringe before you. All the earth bows down to you. They sing praise to you. They sing praise to your name. Come and see what God has done. How awesome are his works in man's behalf. He turned the sea into dry land. They passed through the waters on foot. Come, let us rejoice in him. He rules forever by his power. His eyes watch the nations. Let not the rebellious rise up against him. Praise our God, O peoples. Let the sound of his praise be heard. He has preserved our lives and kept our feet from slipping. Verse 10. For you, O God, tested us. You refined us like silver. You brought us into prison and laid burdens on our backs. You let men ride over our heads. We went through fire and water, but you brought us to a place of abundance. And then verse 16, come and listen, all you who fear God. Let me tell you what he has done for me. And then verse 20, praise be to God. He has not rejected my prayer or withheld his love from me. Psalm 66. Well, this psalm is a classic communal hymn, at least at the beginning, that praises God for what he has done for the nation of Israel. But it quickly morphs in the second half of the passage into an individual praise of God. And this shouldn't surprise us. We have seen this so many times already in the Psalms, whether it's a praise psalm or a lament or complaint psalm, this morphing back and forth between the communal and the individual. And this is classic Jewish theological thinking because a person's individual relationship with God is so much more than just with God. It's also in relation to all of the others of the community, the faith community. And so my salvation or my relationship with God as an individual is very much dependent upon everybody else's relationship. And if somebody else is suffering or somebody else is praising or somebody else is struggling with obedience, that struggle is my struggle. And this is such a beautiful part, I believe, of Jewish theological thinking. And it is part of our Christian heritage as well. Although I think here in the West, especially recently, we emphasize so much the individual. And we've lost that connection to the community. So that when someone else is praising, or someone else is suffering, or someone else is disobedient, we kind of set that aside and say, hey, I'm good with God, and I can just continue on my path with blinders on. And I would love to see us get back to that more communal aspect of faith. Because around the world, other Christians in other parts of the world are suffering greatly, being persecuted, martyred, places like Nigeria, where the Islamic rule is really pushing hard against Christianity. We should be feeling that suffering as well with our brothers and sisters around the world. So that's one aspect of this particular psalm that we can look at, this morphing between the individual and the communal. So the first part of our faith lesson today, the first part of our reflection, is to think about our relationship with God, not just relative to God himself, but in relation to those around us in our local community and those around us around the world who are suffering for Christ. The other piece that I mentioned here about this particular psalm is the literary structure that it employs. It's a classic Jewish structure called a chiasm. So what is a chiasm, you ask? It is a set of statements that are laid out by the author of the text in a certain order. And it's kind of like, I would say, almost like a textual mountain. So you have as the foundation or at the base of a mountain, a statement. theological statement. It could be a statement of praise, it could be a statement of theology, but it's statement, and we'll call it statement A. And then further in the text, doesn't have to be the next verse. And in the case of Psalm 66, it's several verses later, we have a second theological statement. So we're climbing the mountain now. We'll call this statement B. Once again, it can be a statement of praise or a statement of theology. And then we continue up the mountain until we get to the summit of the mountain. And it might be a set of 3 phrases that gets us there. It might be more than that. But let's say it's statement C. And this is the high point, the summit, and this is the main theological argument that the writer would like to get across. And then as we come down the backside of the mountain, we see parallel statements of the statements that were occurring as we were going up the mountain. So as we come back down, we have B on the upside, and we'll call it B prime on the downside. And these statements are parallel and reflect kind of a symmetry between the two of them. And as we get to the base of the mountain on the backside, we see another statement, we'll call it A prime, that mirrors and parallels that first statement. So we have this theological build-up to a main statement, and then back down the other side. And we see that, I believe, in Psalm 66. So I'll just read some of these to you. So in verses 1 and 2, we have this statement of praise. Shout with joy to God, all the earth. Sing glory to his name. Make his praise glorious. So we'll call that statement A. And then statement B is an invitation by the author to the reader to investigate God. This is from verse 5. Come and see what God has done. See how awesome his works are on man's behalf. So that's that B statement, we'll call it. And then we get to the summit, and what I think is the main theological point of this particular psalm. And it says this in verse 10, for you, O God, tested us. You refined us like silver. And now we're at the summit, and we should expect as we continue on in the psalm to find those B prime and C prime statements that would mirror what we saw going up the mountain. So we see that in verse 16. This invitation to investigate God that mirrors verse 5. Verse 16 says, come and listen, all you who fear God. Let me tell you what he has done for me. And then we'd expect to see at the end a statement of praise. And sure enough, we see it in verse 20. Praise be to God who has not rejected my prayer or withheld his love for me. And so the main point of Psalm 66 is this testing that God puts us through, this refining that he puts us through. When you decide to investigate God, as the psalmist invites us to do, you realize that faith is a full contact sport. This gig called Christianity is not for the faint of heart. And at the center of our faith are periods of testing. And when you go through testing, everyone will see it. It will be on display. And so the question is, what is the end result of our testing? Is it worth it? Look at verse 12. We went through fire and water, but you brought us to a place of abundance. I know that there are people that are listening to this podcast today that are going through that fire, going through that test. I know some people that are going through in the next month some pretty hard physical challenges. Is it worth it? You bet it is. God promises that he will bring us out to a place of abundance, or prosperity as another translation says. To be tested and to weather the storm is a witness and a testimony to all that is good about God. And so this morning, as we go about our day and we face the challenges and the tests of the day, be mindful of those around you who are believers, who are going through that same kind of testing. And be mindful of the witness and the testimony that you have, because people are watching you. And your witness and testimony as you go through the challenges of life can show other people the goodness of God. Shalom, Godspeed, Pastor D. Walk signing out.